Jeremy Hunt reportedly considering a cut to income tax or national insurance, maybe both, in Wednesday's autumn statement.
But the Chancellor is also weighing up a cut to benefits to pay for it. Treasury Minister Gareth Davies joins us now. Very good morning to you, Gareth Davies.
Morning.
Is this true, what we hear about not putting benefits up quite as much as those who are in receipt of them might expect?
Well, good morning to both of you. Thank you again for having me on your show. It's not appropriate for me to comment on the autumn statement this week. We don't comment on fiscal events, but I would just point out that this year we did uprate benefits, I think by 10% in line with inflation. So we are very conscious about.
We're talking about forthcoming benefits. So this is Bloomberg reporting that the Treasury, where you work, so you will know, is considering using October's consumer price index figure of 4.6% for the annual uprating in benefits, instead of 6.7%, the usual September reading. Is that something you are considering?
I'm not able, I'm afraid, ahead of a fiscal event to comment on that, but I would just point out again, we did uprate benefits quite significantly this year, and we were also standing by people.
Yes, we're talking about the raising of benefits in April 2024. So, you can talk about the ones that you have already raised. We're talking about the ones that you still have the power to raise. Those in receipt of benefits want to know, are you going to jiggle the figures and the months so that you don't raise benefits quite as much?
Well, like I said, I'm not going to comment on fiscal events.
Well, you could just rule it out, Minister. You could just say, don't worry, we're just going to stick to the normal plan. They'll go up as we normally put them up. They'll go up by the right figure rather than putting it on a different month so that they don't go up quite as much. You could just rule it out, because by saying you're not speculating, you are literally speculating and allowing people to speculate.
Yeah, I get your line of questioning. I am not going to speculate on fiscal events. It's a pretty well-known approach ahead of anything as significant as an autumn statement. But what I will say is that we have stood by the most vulnerable in our society. But the overall point on benefits is that we want people to move away from benefits, away from the welfare state and into work. And that is a principle that guides us every single day.
All right, let's talk to you about tax. Is it true, as has been widely reported today in most of the national newspapers in this country, that the government is backing away currently from cutting inheritance tax? Is that off the table now?
Well, I'm not going to get drawn on individual taxes, but we've always been clear the number one priority for us is to bring down inflation, because that, in effect, is a tax that affects everybody, individuals, families, the most vulnerable in our society. And so the fact that that is now down below 5%, that we cut it in half as we said we would at the start of this year, but we've still got further to go, that lays the foundation for economic growth.
Well, let me put a tax question slightly differently then. You'll know, as Susanna said, because you work in the Treasury, whatever the tax plans are that will be announced on Wednesday, they've already been decided. They're already in black and white in the documents, and they probably have been for the last 2 or 3 weeks. They have to be, because they're complex matters. Can you at least confirm that the decisions have been taken, re-inheritance tax, income tax, national insurance, that those decisions are now actually out there?
Well, this is a process that goes on for months. You're right. It does take a long time to come to these decisions, but they are, believe it or not, actually decisions that are taken quite close to the fiscal event, because we rely on the OBR to give us forecasts on things like levels of debt and estimations on other forecasts. So actually, it is something that gets decided quite late in the day. But the overall picture that we can paint is one that the autumn statement will be focused on boosting economic growth. We'll do that through supporting business investment that helps create jobs, but also bringing more people into the workforce, boosting workforce participation. That's another key way in which we can support people through this fiscal event.
We've had a Conservative government for years and years and years now, and our tax levels in this country, as you know, are the highest they've ever been in living memory, for 70 years. Could you concisely explain to us and to our viewers why, under a Conservative government, that's the case? Higher tax than under any Labour government that's existed over the last 7 decades.
Yeah, one of the reasons is in the last 15 years we've had 3 global shocks, and in just the last 3 years we've had 2 of them. So we had a global pandemic and then an energy crisis caused by Putin's invasion of Ukraine. And so in both of those shocks we stepped in as a government to support people and businesses. In COVID that was £400 billion of support, and in the energy crisis £94 billion of support, effectively paying people's energy bills by some 50%. And so our debt is also very, very high, and we want to get our debt down because we don't want to be paying more in interest payments than we do on things like education. So there's ways you can do that to get that down. You can either be very restrained on spending, which we have been, but you can also ensure that you are raising revenue. And
okay.
I'm afraid that is why the tax burden is high.
Just to establish, the Conservative Party is not a low-tax party, is it, anymore?
It is very much a party that is focused on bringing taxes down. That is absolutely our intention.
It's focused on bringing taxes down, but it's putting taxes up to the highest tax burden for 70 years. Well,
we put the tax burden up because we stepped in with significant support,
so
as I say.
So the Tory party, I mean, because we're going to get a general election in a year's time. If people want to vote for a low-tax party, they wouldn't vote Conservative, would they, anymore?
Well, they certainly wouldn't vote for the Labour Party, who we know would put taxes up.
I asked about whether the Tories were a low-tax party.
They'll have an option at a general election, and with the Conservative Party we do bring taxes down, but we also manage the economy responsibly. We're not going to cut taxes.
I can't. Sorry, where are the taxes? Where are the taxes coming down? Because even though we've got an autumn statement this week, and you're the Treasury Minister, you've refused to talk about tax cuts in this interview, and you are a minister in a government which is presiding over the highest tax burden for 70 years. What's the exact definition of focused on bringing taxes down?
We've already brought some taxes down. 3 million people in our country don't pay any tax because we've increased the threshold at which you start paying tax. So you can earn £1,000 a month in this country and not pay any tax at all.
4 million more workers now pay the 20% rate of income tax compared with 3 years ago.
Well, 4 million is an interesting figure because in 2010 we came into office with very high unemployment. We've actually created 4 million new jobs since we came into office, and that is the best way to make sure that people are prosperous in our economy. But as I say, we've brought down taxes for 3 million people, and for businesses we introduced capital allowances, which allows businesses to claim corporation tax.
Yeah, sorry,
back,
the reason that more people are paying more income tax is because you haven't done anything with the tax thresholds. They've been frozen for the last 6 years.
Well, as I say, we've had global shocks which has increased the debt pile, and we need to ensure that we get that debt pile down. But the overall approach of this government is to bring taxes down when it is responsible to do so.
Okay.
We're not going to be irresponsible with public finances.
Your colleague, our new Home Secretary, James Cleverly, has noticeably not denied reports and claims that he called and described the Rwanda policy bat asterisk, 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 asterisk. He hasn't denied it. Do you think would you use that word?
Well, what I would say about the Rwanda policy is that we're looking at a new treaty with Rwanda to ensure that we can allay the concerns of the Supreme Court. We are very confident that we can allay those concerns.
Yeah, some people think you're flogging a dead horse and it's time to let it go.
Well, the Supreme Court were really clear. They said that it is very lawful to send asylum seekers to a third party for processing. It's a model that's already been introduced in Australia. It's a model that other countries like Germany, Italy and Austria are looking at replicating. They had some specific concerns around the Rwandan institutions. We've been working very closely with Rwanda over the last 15 months, and we're confident that through this new treaty we can directly address the concerns of the Supreme Court.
But you've been confident about your Rwanda plan since it was first announced. And surely the first prerogative of any proposed government policy is that it's deliverable. And this one is patently undeliverable. You haven't delivered it.
Well, we respect the decision of the Supreme Court, but we don't agree with it. We are accepting of it, and so moving forward with a treaty to address their specific concerns about the institutions of Rwanda. It's worth pointing out as well that they based their decision, their judgment, on evidence that was provided to them 15 months ago to the Court of Appeal.
Yeah, we know that.
And we've been working for the last 15 months with the Rwandan government very closely to ensure that we can move forward and address the concerns that the Supreme Court have raised. And so we're very confident that we can deliver this Rwanda policy.
Well, thank you for your time this morning. We look forward to Wednesday's fiscal statement when one hopes all will become clear and we can talk about it here. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
OK.